Greetings and welcome to another edition of The Great Goddess. Praise be to Goddess. Praise be to Goddess. Well, today is Tuesday, and I'm making my video a day early because I have an appointment tomorrow on Wednesday. So, until then, I will make my video early, a day early, for the benefit of my viewers. And we have a very serious topic today. The topic is, why is there intolerance? And it's based upon an experience I had very recently that was very poignant for me. It was not pleasant at all. It was not pleasant at all, but I learned something from the experience. So, without further ado, why is there intolerance? Well, that's a difficult thing to answer, but the short answer is that religion can be a great divider between people. And certain religions become a personal diatribe for certain people that get onto a political stump. They climb up on their political stump and give a little speech. And this becomes, for them, a stumbling block to peaceful relations with other religions. They become polarized based upon their religious beliefs. And this was an experience I had recently. I went to a church. It was a Lutheran church for their Memorial Day services. And I was expecting something very solemn, very stately, very dignified for Memorial Day. I thought, who could mess up Memorial Day? Who? Well, this minister could, that I saw at this church. Only he could mess up Memorial Day. And this was the Sunday before Memorial Day. So it wasn't on Memorial Day. It was the Sunday before Memorial Day. And the local VFW hall turned out for the church service. And they actually gave a gun salute during the church service. It wasn't a 21 gun salute. It was more like a 3 gun salute. But it was a gun salute that they gave during the services. So they were giving their permission to this minister to speak on their behalf, on behalf of the veterans of America, the veterans of foreign wars. So it was like an endorsement. And subsequently, after I heard the minister's sermon, it made the VFW hall, the local VFW hall, go down in my estimation because of the way they handled things. Was just a disgrace to this nation. It was a disgrace to this country, and it was a total disgrace. The minister's sermon was a total disgrace, and it was an insult to true Americans and to everyone in this great nation of ours. It was an insult. And I'll try to give you the summary in brief. In brief, what he said was that all non-Christians bad, Christians good. And that was the whole theme of his sermon. He was saying that our country was founded in Christianity, and therefore it should be Christian from sea to shining sea. In other words, all Christian, not Christianity from sea to shining sea. It should be all Christian from sea to shining sea. No variation at all, nothing in between, just all Christian. And he was hoping it would be Lutheran Christian, of course. but he was satisfied with any Christianity. And I was listening to this in disbelief. He actually said during his sermon that if we allow this country to go to non-Christians, we can't hire enough police officers. And then he said, I'll say it again. And he repeated himself. He said it twice. And I was in disbelief. I was in shock. I personally, I was in shock. I couldn't believe what he was saying. And every time he said God, he said, he qualified it with Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. So anybody who doesn't believe in the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, like Jews and Muslims, in other words, non-Christians, like what he said, non-Christians, are all included in his diatribe as the villains of this country, and as not law-abiding citizens. Well, from what I've seen, most of the criminals in this country are Christian, because Christianity is the main religion in this country, and most people are Christian, so most of the criminals are Christian too. In fact, I've seen a very low crime rate amongst Jews, and probably Muslims too. Probably Muslims don't commit a whole lot of crimes. I could be wrong. Maybe Muslims do commit a disproportionate number of crimes, but Jews certainly don't, and Jews would be included in the designation of non-Christian. So he was attacking all non-Christians, pagans, me, the goddess worshippers, everybody. Everybody was included in his diatribe against non-Christians. And it was shocking. It was frankly, I hadn't seen that level of public hatred displayed in such a way that you couldn't refute it. You couldn't refute that it was hate speech. I hadn't seen that kind of hate speech in a long time. And he just sounded like Adolf Hitler, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, there wasn't much difference between this Lutheran minister and Adolf Hitler. And that's kind of a shame for the Lutherans, because they've had to live down the reputation as being the Nazis' main religion. Lutheranism, it's from Germany. So I was shocked that he made these statements about non-Christians, and saying that our country was being taken over by non-Christians, and that our government is trying to wipe out Christianity, which is ridiculous, because nothing could be further from the truth. Christianity's never been doing better in our country, ever. They've never, ever had more freedom, ever, in any country in this world than in America. But his idea is that as long as Christianity isn't being taught in schools, he didn't say this, by the way, but as long as it's not being taught in schools, that it's being wiped out. So if you take that attitude, which is really ridiculous, it's really a ridiculous idea that Christianity is being wiped out if it's not being taught in public schools. But public schools are for everyone. They're for all religions, right? But this guy acted as if he'd never heard of freedom of religion before. He was saying that Christianity was under attack wherever it wasn't being taught, wherever it wasn't being promoted, wherever it wasn't the main religion, the centerpiece religion, the only religion allowed. That as long as only Christianity was allowed, that Christianity was under attack if it wasn't the only religion being allowed. And this is what he was teaching his parishioners, and they were eating it up. They were listening to him very respectfully. Nobody shouted him down. Nobody said, hey, that's not true. Nobody said, you sound like a Nazi. they all accepted his diatribe. They all accepted it, and maybe they've heard something similar on other occasions. I don't know. He even went so far as to say that non-Christians were responsible for abortion. So he lumped all non-Christians together as being responsible for abortion. And it was really ridiculous. I just couldn't believe how far he went. And you should have heard the way he said Allah. When he said Allah, he said it in such a contemptuous manner. He spit the word out. He said that Allah is a false god, obviously, which is pretty funny because Allah is pretty much the same God that he worships. The same God. They adopted the God of the Christians and the Jews, the Muslims did. And here he is saying Allah's a false god. It's really funny. It's kind of ridiculous. But he was ignorant, so to him Allah was another word for another god that's not his God. So ignorance of Semitic languages, yet again, showing that broad ignorance of these intolerant types. And he said that everyone who's a Muslim is going to hell, is going to burn in hell. Well, I can tell you one thing. If you don't believe in Goddess, you're not going to burn in hell. You may come back to earth, but you're not going to burn in hell for not believing in Goddess. And most people don't believe in Goddess. You think most people would burn in hell if they didn't believe in Goddess? No. So, Goddess worship is a much more tolerant religion than Christianity. Christianity is the height of intolerance. And if you want to hear about a false god, I'll tell you what's a false god. Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. There could be nothing more false than worshiping a human being as a god. And I agree with the Jews on this point, that a human being should not be worshipped as a god. There's your false god right there. That Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. That Trinity is a false god. So, you talk about false gods. That's the false god right there. So, my response to this intolerance is with tolerance. The only way to respond to intolerance is with tolerance. I am tolerant of Christians. I tolerate Christians, okay? I don't tolerate, I have zero tolerance for intolerant Christians. Okay, when you talk about intolerant Christians, but I know for a fact that all Christians are not intolerant like this minister. Not all Christians are intolerant. Some of them can be quite tolerant. And I am in favor of tolerant Christians. I respond to Christians with tolerance. So the only way to respond to intolerance is with tolerance. And you should tolerate, I've got Jewish friends, I've got Christian friends, and so I tolerate other religions. And you should too. Always respond to intolerance with tolerance, and don't fall into the trap of being an intolerant, ignorant fool that shouts down other religions and says nasty crap about other religions. I even met a goddess worshiper online that was bad-mouthing the goddess herself because she was so intolerant of my religious viewpoint that she had to shout me down and tell me how wrong I am and how wrong my religion is and call it a bunch of bull crap. Basically, that's what she described my beliefs as a bunch of bullcrap, and she even insulted the goddess in her attempt to denigrate my religion. So don't be an intolerant bigot. Don't be an intolerant bigot. Be tolerant of other religions. Be mature toward other religions. And they did something terrible at this service. They altered the words to America the Beautiful. And they did this irretrievably altered the lyrics to America the Beautiful, and they ruined it. So, in honor of Memorial Day, I will sing to you my own version of America the Beautiful. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, or purple mountain majesty above the fruited plain. America, America, Goddess, shed her grace on thee, and crown thy good with sisterhood from sea to shining sea.